Okay. Great. Ready?
Yeah,
Great. Okay. All right, Ellen, it was great to get to know you in some of our fit questions. Yeah, I love your energy. I think you'd be a good fit for our firm, just in terms of culture. But yeah, I think right now let's move on to the case interview. What do you think?
great. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So, your client, an Australia-based private equity firm, wants to acquire Starbus Australia, which is the biggest bus manufacturer in Australia. Your client has approached you, a consultant, to assess the transaction. In the end, you should be able to advise the client whether this is a good investment. What factors would you consider in this assessment?
Great. So our client is a PE firm, and they're considering to acquire Starbus Australia, one of the largest manufacturer, a bus manufacturer in Australia. And he want our opinion to whether to move on or not, right?
That's right. With this, yes, with this investment.
Great. I have some clarifying question before we get into the case. Um, do our client have a goal in their head? What they're trying to achieve?
Right, right, great. And so yeah, just to clarify, yeah, they just would like us to advise. No particular time frame, but they would just like us to advise whether this is a smart transaction.
Great. So um do they have any matrix to gauge what success looks like for them?
Yeah, we'll get into all that. But yeah, we'll just see if this is a good investment. Just
Got it.
in a um a variety of metrics.
Sure. And does our client have ever acquired any other company, I mean target company that seems like Starbucks, like also large manufacturer, that he have any experience in such industry?
Yeah, in regards to portfolio, no, there's no information about our private equity firms, what their like current portfolio is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we will get that information later, right?
Perhaps, yeah. But right now
Oh,
we're just looking at the acquisition target.
great. I think that's all I need to know for now. So can I take my time, take some time to,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, please go
Yeah,
ahead.
okay. So that's all I need for now. Can I take some time to structure my thought?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Great. Great. I think I have a structure to solve our client's problem. So now I think I would divide the problem, whether this is a good target to acquire or not, this problem into three buckets. So the first bucket, I will first look like I would first I would like to look into the target itself, and then move on is our what is our goal, and what's our, and whether we have the capacity to achieve the goal after we done the acquisition. And then move on is do the cost and benefit economics analysis. So whether how does it look like on our balance sheet. And then back to the first bucket. So by understanding our targets, first I would like to understand from industry wise. So and the industry and the macroeconomy. So how this how this bus manufacturer business the current status in Australia. And then move on is want to look at our own company. How is it a healthy company? Do they have any problem at this moment? How about the execution team, their operation teams? What are their client networks? So we like to screen the company in a comprehensive way. And then finally, I would like to look at the financial performance. How is our Starbus perform over the past 5 years, and how they project to perform the next 5 years? So that's it's basically how we would like to understand the current target. And then move on is after the acquisition, what is our goal to manage this target, the Starbus, and how and whether we have the capacity to achieve that. So for example, do we have any experience in manufacturer? So in our current portfolio, and are we target to turn this Starbus business around, or we want to make a consolidation with our existing portfolio? Are we trying to sell within a current time frame, or do we want to keep it operate maybe to keep it in our portfolio as a stable, keep it as a stable. And so what's our goal, and whether we have the capacity. And then move on is finally we want to understand the whole transaction economic analysis. What is the cost? So how much is the is it, are they asking a reasonable price? So how and what are the potential benefit we foresee in the coming years? How much synergy and how much expertise we can pour to nourish the Starbus to grow and to operate, and how much connections we could benefit the Starbus business. And then finally is put everything together. It's like data analysis, financial data analysis. What is IRR? What is the investment payback periods? So yeah, basically that is the framework that I want to understand. I would like to explore this problem for now. So I think the first step is I would like to look at into the target. So it's industry, it's performance, financial performance, or general performance compared to its peers. So I think that will be the first step. If you don't have other opinion, what do you think? You're muted, I think.
Yeah, great. So thank you. Right. So I think it's a good start. I think that's your structure has a lot of good stuff to take in consideration. So I just want so you're planning to look at the target, like the target of whether we should acquire Starbus. I see where you're going with like looking at the company itself. But what other stuff could you take into consideration? So not just the company, but in a larger kind of perspective. Do you have any other ideas for whether what else to consider?
Great. So our
Just want to ask you, yeah.
yeah, so we want to understand what kind of like matrix we want to look at to gauge the overall health of our target company, Starbucks, right?
Right, right. Yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, okay, and
So
you also said that the transaction is fairly priced. So yeah, let's move on. Let's move on. So like we'll get into the target acquisition, the acquisition target itself. But I just wanted to first ask you, could you estimate the size of the school bus market in Australia?
estimate the school bus size in
The market.
Australia. Oh
Yes.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So I think yeah, I think so to get the school bus market size to be estimated, I think
Mhm,
first I would like to do the top down approach. I would
mhm,
first like to get to know the Australia population and how many what is the percentage the population that's in school. So and then I can get to know the number of the school that in Australia, and then the average, and also I got to understand the number of the schools and the size of the school. So how many students are in the schools, and
mhm,
then we could get an estimation. So how many buses will be needed
mhm.
uh per school, and then we could add them up together. So how do you like this approach?
Yeah, yeah, right. And just to clarify, yeah, the school bus market would be measured in number of buses per year. So I just want to make that clear what you'll be answering. But yeah, I think that yeah, breaking down from top down is a good approach. So yeah, please if you need any information, just let me know.
Great. I think first I would like to understand the first step is I would like to understand like how many buses exist is needed in Australia. And then the second step and then the second step is I need to understand like what's the lifetime of a bus. So how many
Mhm,
years it will retire. So I think I need basically that's just two data to get how many buses will be needed per year to be purchased every years. So I think first is do we have any data on how many schools that in Australia at this moment and the size of the school, how many bus they need?
Right, yeah. So we'll need you to kind of think about what the size of the schools are and so on. But I can give you what you mentioned, the bus useful life, which is a bus is useful for 10 years.
It's used for 10 years. That's very helpful. Uh, and do we have any data on Australia population?
Right, yeah, the Australia population is 25 million people.
25 million people. So, um, so I mean, based on the circumstances in America, so I would my hypothesis here uh is the students from elementary to the high school they probably need
Hmm.
bus. So that's from age 5 to age I would say age 6 to age 16.
Okay.
That then that is 10 so suppose the average life expectancy is 80 years, so
Hmm.
that is 1/8 student there are 1/8 population
Hmm.
uh they're currently in a kindergarten from kindergarten to high school,
Hmm.
so which is around uh 3 point it is around 3 million people in the school. Does this sound reasonable for you?
Yeah, just go ahead, keep going. Yeah, let's go ahead, keep going.
Yeah.
Like it sounds reasonable, yeah, but let's keep going.
Yeah, so it's supposed it's 3 million for schools. So do we have any data on what are usually size of the school?
Yeah, like population of each school.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. I think go ahead instead of per school, you can just take the entire age group. So
Okay, great.
yeah.
Then do we have any data on how many seat will be arranged per bus?
Right, yeah. So the bus capacity, each bus capacity is 50 students.
50 student capacity. So so bus capacity is 50 students. So let's suppose uh I mean what would be I mean here I'm thinking about how what percentage of the students need a school bus.
Mhm.
Shall we assume that everyone needs school bus or just a certain amount of them?
Right, yeah. However you would break it down of just how many students of each kind of age group would need a bus. I'll just leave that for your discretion.
Great. So I think uh so yeah, now we know there are 3 million students from age 6 to 16. So but given I mean I think it's reasonable to break that into two buckets. So which is well, the first bucket is the students that are more younger and they
Mhm.
might need they definitely need bus, for we cannot expect elementary as
Mhm.
children can ride bike or drive themselves to
Of
school.
course, yeah.
But when they're getting older, like after 12, I
Mhm.
think they have more knowledge about their safety and they can walk, they can bike, they
Absolutely.
have
Yeah.
multiple option to get to school. So if we put that into like just break into a 50-50. So there are 50 younger students, 50 elder, more sophisticated students. So like so for the younger student, they everyone need to transport through bus. But the other 50, I would say probably I I mean from my own experience might be only 30% need a bus. That seems like
For,
reasonable
for,
data for you.
for which age group?
For elder one.
Oh yeah, 30%. Yeah, that sounds fine.
Yeah, for younger group, I would say 100% of them need a bus.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, so it's now we have 3 million students overall. So we put them into two buckets. 1.5 million need then they all need bus and 1.5 million, but only 30%. Which is 0.5 million. So overall, we have 2 million students need bus. So if we divided that by the 50 seats bus capacity. So which means overall, um, so overall there will be there will be a 40,000 bus existing in Australia. This sounds a reasonable number for you?
Great. Yeah, yeah.
Great. So if the bus life is the serving lifetime is 10 years, so um every year there will be 4,000 bus needed on the market.
4,000?
Yeah,
4,000? Okay.
4,000 bus needed in Australia every year.
Okay. I just to make sure you have 400,000 and then there's useful life
No,
of
4,000
Oh, okay, 4,000.
bus. 4,000 bus needed.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, by understanding the market size, that will be really helpful to gauge what's our position, our target company position at this moment. So do we have any further data on, yeah, so how much market share our Starbucks is have at this moment?
Great, great. Okay. Yeah, we can go on with that. Let's see. So let's look at market growth. I definitely think, yeah, competitive landscape, we'll get into that a little bit later. I wanted to ask you just to come up with some ideas because we have some information on the market growth. The driver of growth is mostly driven by population growth, and on average, the Australia population has been growing at 2% per year. However, the annual growth rate of the buses is growing by 5% in the past 3 years. So I want to ask you, what could be the cause of the high growth rate of 5% of the bus market as opposed to the 2% of the population growth per year?
Yeah, great. Can I take a moment to structure my thought?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think the possible reason that first is, well, though population growth at 2%, but the younger generation are growing faster. That is one possibility. So that is we get probably more than 2% student growth rate. So overall across in Australia. That's the first possibility. And the second is probably because of the government regulations.
Mm,
They have a strict safety requirement that may mandate certain amount of students below certain age have to take bus, so they have to get more bus
great.
on the market. So and then moving on, it's probably because the student its own condition. I mean, depend on there could be a variable of our consumer behavior that is changing that change. For example, like students that live far away from the school, so not every seat will be fulfilled. So which means we probably need more bus to see a larger networks to transport the students
Okay.
to school. And also maybe the students need they require the school, or school may have the budget to upgrade the bus to a much modern one, a much safety one. So they may, even though the lifetime is 10 years, we expire them in 7 to 8 years. So that is another reason. So that is uh the supply side, the demand side is changing. So that
Okay.
those are the possible buckets I'm thinking about.
Great, great. Okay, great. Where should we go next?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So for the next is, now we get to know there are 4,000 bus needed every year and expect 5% growth since after that. So after that, I would like to look at the target company itself. how it perform financial performance and their own operation performance. So and their position in the market. Do we have any data on that?
Yeah, I think that's great about the yeah, the target. And I actually do have some information about the position in the market. And so let me share my screen with you and just let me know what you think.
Great. From this exhibit from the left, I can tell is the percentage of Australia school bus market share in dollars.
Mhm.
And from the right is the percentage of Australia school bus market share in units. That's interesting. So we can compare this to pie chart to understand whether we are at the whether we have the price advantage or not. So from the left chart, Starbus is at 40%. From right chart, we are at 36%. So which means we charge a little bit higher than our competitor. That is great. Do we have any do we know why we have a stronger price power?
Yeah, great. So you're right, we do have a higher price for our products. What do you think? I just want to throw by you. What do you think why why we might be charging a higher price?
Great. I think why we have a higher price, um, there are several possibilities. So for example, it's our product is better. So maybe it's getting safer than others, and we have stronger um um yeah.
I
Yeah,
see
so
where.
I would like to break that into three buckets. So the
Mhm.
first is probably because our product is better, and the second is probably because our service is better, and the third is probably because our marketing is much better. So from the product side, maybe it's safer, it's modern, it's like premium one, luxurious, a little bit luxurious. The seat,
Mhm.
the air condition, and the second, the service is maybe we offer better after sale maintain service. We have strong maintenance team. That's another possibility. And third is our marketing power, our brand name. So we have probably a longer history than other players. So we got more trust from our clients. So those are the possible reasons behind our pricing power.
Great. So I see where you're going with this, but I want to let you know that school buses, they're actually traditionally highly commoditized products. So Starbus and its competitor, these manufacture the same type of buses with minimal differences. So I see where you're going, but in regards to product and service, or however, all of its competitors, Starbus and its competitors, they operate, their product is similar to any, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So
So
why else would the price or pricing of the buses be higher? Maybe some financial aspects.
so you mean basically the school bus domain, the product and the after sale service are about the same. We
Exactly. Yeah.
differentiate ourselves.
That's only minimal differences.
Got it, got it. So then why I think is it I then that could be first is still that I mentioned is the brand name.
Mhm.
Maybe our brand uh
Right,
is
right. Well, let's step away from like the brand and more of like the qualitative aspects. What do you think financially? What drives price? What drives price in regards to financial aspects? Like yeah, what might drive
great.
price?
I see. If we if we suppose the product service brand are about the same, then the most fundamental pillar about the pricing is demand and supply. It's
Okay.
probably we serve in a region that is school bus is more needed rather than Melbourne and Sydney. Yeah,
Okay.
it's the school bus is oversupply, so that could be a reason behind that.
Yeah, perhaps. But where I'm looking to bring you towards is with this being a manufacturing company, and Starbus Australia is manufacturing school buses. What would you consider for manufacturing of school buses? What would be particularly important in considering prices for manufacturing school buses, these physical products?
Um, so as a manufacturer, um,
Right, manufacture. What would you consider as a manufacturer?
as a manufacturer, I mean, definitely, if not because of the market demand and supply,
Mhm.
it definitely, we need to consider a supply chain. So how it's managed, it's the whole supply chain that it's probably have higher cost structure than our competitors,
Hmm.
and it's probably have higher price when we deliver the school bus to the school.
Hmm.
So maybe we have higher costs so that we have to sell in a higher price.
Right. Okay, great. So let me show you some information about that.
Great. So great. From the second exhibit, I can tell the star bus, mail bus, seat bus, the performance in the gross margin and operating margin.
Mhm.
So it seems like our star bus gross margin and operating margin both are lower compared to uh, our competitors, even though we can charge a higher price, but our margin is not that ideal. I
Hmm.
think that's that confirms our hypothesis, which is our client's target company might facing a operation efficiency problems and can be improved.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I think that the next step I would like to look at um, the data on our target company, Starbucks, the financial performance.
Hmm.
So what are their cost breakdown and what are the potential areas that we could catch up with our competitors. I mean,
Right.
those are so there are two things that make me really wondering. So why first is why we charge higher but gross margin is lower, so we don't benefit much from our pricing power. And the second is we selling more quantity. So it's usually the more quantity we sell, the larger economics of scale benefit we could enjoy, but doesn't reflect from our performance data.
Okay.
So why is that? Yeah.
Okay, great. So just to clarify, what from this, what would you like to look next? What would you like to look at next?
Yeah, I will look like to the breakdown of our of the Starbucks cost structure. Do we have any data on that?
Right. Yeah, great, right, the Starbucks cost pressure. Just very quickly, just to throw by you, just please just just let me know what might just be the biggest like cost considerations for Starbucks Australia. Just like give me some ideas like right away if that's okay.
Yeah, great. So for the cost, the major cost, I would like to break that into
Hmm.
the fixed one and a variable one. So
Hmm.
I think the most major cost should be the variable cost, that the materials that we use,
Hmm.
the labor that we use to every bus. Uh, and then is some and the delivery cost as well. And
Hmm.
also the some fixed costs like SG&A and some maintenance team, yeah, there's some overhead, the amount that we need to operate the manufacturer, the amount we need to, like the utilities, those are some fixed costs that maybe, yeah, we'll break that into two part. Yeah.
Great, great. Yeah, so I love the idea of, the variable cost being higher. So just get into that a little bit deeper. So we see that you're right, the cost issue is a big part of why our margins are lower. And so this is a big issue, our cost of goods sold. Can you go ahead and brainstorm what might be issues with the cost of goods sold, and whether or not and what kind of insights would you gain from the ideas you come up with?
Got it. So, um, yeah, I think the according to the exhibit, we the from gross margin to operating margin, so which means the S&G that we mentioned, they're all about 20%. So the overhead cost is all about 20%. So we are at about the industry average. So those are the not, so which means the fixed cost maybe not our most concerned part. Our most
Mm,
concerned part should be the variable cost, the
mhm.
cost that are associated with the product, the materials, the service, and why we have lower gross margin compared to our competitors.
Mhm. Right. So what would be some ideas for let me just ask you. So you're totally right. The cost structure, the fixed costs seem to be not the issue, and so there's a large number of variable cost issues. So can you come up just with the variable costs, some more ideas, and then what would you take away from that in regards to our objective of whether this Starbus Australia is a good acquisition target? So with this cost structure that you'll come up with, what insight would you gain about the attractiveness of this being an acquisition target?
Oh, I see. Great. So we want to understand after those information have been explored, whether this is a attractive target for our client or not. Is that
Right.
the question that we're trying to answer?
Right. Yeah. What would you consider?
Great. Um, so can I take a moment to structure my thoughts?
Yeah, please, please.
Yeah, I think this is I think overall Starbus is a promising target. Um a promising target that we should consider to acquire, because first it has a really strong market share stand, so it has a market advantage. And on the other hand, the overall the bus industry is growing in a good shape. It's growing 5% every year. However, our targets also have some problems with the cost part, but it's highly possible for our target company to catch up. So it's now we know the problem is mainly based on the material, the variable cost. Then we need to look deeper into whether this is because of the material parts cost is higher, or is it because of the service? So is it, if this is because of the material, so we need to look deep into whether it's we use too much quantity of the material, so which means there are some efficiency issues, or is it we our procurement issues because we pay more than our competitors. And from the service we can look at into is it because we pay higher to our workers, or is it because our management efficiency, that we need more people than we actually need?
Mhm.
So I think once we can delve into why it has a lower, like 10%, 10% lower than benchmark, if we can catch up with the benchmark, then I think, yeah, Starbucks definitely is an attractive target to look into.
Okay, right. Okay. Great. So let me see. Okay, great. So I'll let you know that the Starbucks suppliers industry is highly consolidated. And so the supply chains are largely set. And so given that the costs that are associated with our acquisition target are quite high, do you think that like switching suppliers and again like kind of switching around the supply chain around the cost of goods sold, do you think that this problem could be solved relatively easily and within a short time frame? I just want to ask you, what do you think?
I think
But yeah, just yes or no. Yeah, what do you think about that?
yes, that is a problem can solve. We could have a chance of solving a short period because first this is a very established industry, and we compare to our other players, Seedbus and Mailbus, and they perform 10% better than us. So they're and once we can find that root cause, so what is cost that is it we pay higher of the materials or
Hmm.
we pay more quantity? If we can depend on what is the root cause, then we can
Hmm.
get the lever to fix it.
Okay. Just to push a little further, what could cause Starbucks to pay higher direct material costs than its peers? Because that is consideration.
So yeah, as I mentioned, there are two possibilities. It's either one we pay higher price or the other we buy more quantity. So if we buy more quantity, that is more about our operational problems. So we might waste unnecessary materials. We didn't handle the manufacturing part efficiently.
Mhm.
So that is the potential cost. So but if it is because as we pay higher prices, so which doesn't really make much sense because we got more quantity to produce. Actually, so the possible reason is maybe we didn't consolidate our pricing power together. Maybe we get 30% from supplier A and 30% from supplier B and 30%
Mhm.
from supplier C. But if we can consolidate all our demand and from one supplier, so we think we definitely have pricing power over our suppliers. So that is one reason. And the second is the the first possibility is our consolidate our pricing power. Uh,
Mhm.
and the second, it's it's probably because depend it's probably because of we are not close to our suppliers, which means we are locations. So it takes
Mhm.
longer. It's more expensive to transport from suppliers to our manufacturing factory. So those
Okay.
are the possible reasons.
Okay, great. And so again, do you think that those kind of considerations for a higher cost structure, higher cost of goods sold, do you think that'd be easily addressed, and quickly addressed?
Yeah, if I think the only tricky part is our location. If the it is because of our location, it takes way much uh higher expenses to transport the the material to our factory, then that is a problem may need some more effort to fix. Other than that, those are some low hanging fruits.
Okay, great. So yeah, just our client private equity firm CEO, he'd like to ask us what our recommendation is on this objective of considering Starbus as an acquisition. What would you suggest to our client?
Yeah, can I take a moment to put together everything?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Great. So I think overall, the Starbucks is a promising target to acquire. So there are two reasons. First, it has a very strong market share compared to other competitors. And the second, and we see there are potential 10% increase of the bottom lines. So we are so therefore this is a target that we should consider to acquire. The first the market share we're 40% compared to the largest school bus manufacturer in Australia. And also the overall marketing, we see a 5% increase every year, which is kind of promising. And the second is even though at this moment we have 10% disadvantage of the gross margin, but there are ways to fix that. Whether we can either we can consolidate our pricing power to get a to get a lower price of the materials, and or we can we can improve our operating efficiencies to decrease the waste, uh the more manufacturing parts to improve the efficiency that we leverage those materials to the final products. So for next step, I would like to look deeper into our target Starbucks to do some due diligence. And second is moving on to understand our goal. So how long we plan to keep Starbucks in our portfolios, and what's our plan after we fix the cost margin, the gross margin problem. So whether we want to sell or still keep. So and whether we have the capacity to achieve the goal. And finally is do some economic analysis. So how long what is exactly the IRR, whether it's meet our expectation or not. And also there are some risks we need to consider. At this moment, the market grow at 5%, but it's fundamentally driven by 2% population growth. So that 5% growth maybe not long lasting. So that's something we need to consider beforehand. Yeah, thank you so much.
Great. Okay, great. What did you think, Ellen?
I think overall is I think brainstorm part I perform better than previous in terms of structuring. At least I try to structure every time.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one step I have. And
Okay.
overall I think it's okay because I'm not unfamiliar with PE industry. I know what acquire a target company looks like. So I overall I like my structure. I like my approach. It's just and I like the way that you challenge me. Uh, what's dig deeper and what's the potential way to solve it. So yeah,
Mhm.
I like this case a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I think I when I saw it as like the first I put not beginner friendly, consulting offer recommended, and brainstorming and manufacturing. And so this was right up just about everything that like, was
I'm
difficult for me.
not good at.
Yeah, or not yet, not good at yet.
Yeah.
Um, right. So any other thoughts? Otherwise I can share my screen and just let you know what
Yeah,
I
sure. What do you think?
Okay, great. Yeah, so definitely this was challenging. Um and but yeah, so I just we'll walk through the case together. Let me see. Great. So yeah, here's Starbucks Australia, and we acquired the firm. And so the in the opening you had focused more on I think the private equity firm itself rather than acquisition target. You had asked about what our private equity firm's current portfolio is, which would eventually be quite relevant with the portfolio companies and synergies. But I think that in your opening you had not gone so far in determining like learning more about the acquisition target itself. And so but in the end, we got there. again, this case is designed to test. I this case was for me to really push you, and you can probably tell I was asking more and more brainstorm questions. Um, and so yeah, just overall with this being a really heavy brainstorming case, I think the biggest takeaway is your suggestions for all the brainstorming ideas, they could be driven, by and large your suggestions would be pretty much applicable to just about any case, and not so much specifically for like this kind of bus manufacturing in Australia kind of case. But we can go on and talk about that. You had mentioned market attractiveness and the transaction. I think that was great about the pricing structure. Um, and but overall, I think your structure was missing some keys, like especially the market. I don't remember if I don't think you had mentioned much about whether the market is attractive. You had mentioned, I think, the larger
Yeah, I mentioned in the first bucket is about the target. So the first is the industry. So
oh, that's right. Yeah.
I didn't emphasize on the market attractive. So I thought that I thought that is implied while you're analyzing the target. So
Yeah.
I think you're right. I should start with the market landscape.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember, I think I remember, I was waiting for the word market, and, I think eventually I think, you had eventually gotten there, with the yeah, you had the target capacity economic landscape, but I was waiting for the word market. But you mentioned economic landscape and industry, um and so on. And then as well, you look at the portfolio and sell during current time frame. Again, this was looking a lot more at the private equity firm as opposed to the target acquisition. But yeah, note that it would probably have been better to focus on the acquisition target. And then as well, you talked about the pricing and synergy and growing connections. And so overall, and your structure definitely had a lot to improve. But I think you were getting to what was important. You had mentioned first you want to look at the financials, I think, of our acquisition target. And so had it been, I would have driven you to ultimately we would get to the market attractiveness. Here in the market estimates, the market sizing. Um how do you actually add there was a lot of considerations that were not kind of made, and so the way they broke it down was in a really highly structured way. And so it's like, yeah, buses required. They broke it down by age group as well. And so you said 5 to 16, but I just thought, remember, like, high schools and yeah, and the age 18. But regardless, that's neither here nor there.
Mhm.
They had broken down into age groups, and then the number of the number of students that take buses, and then ultimately the useful life of a bus and the loading capacity to get that there. I think the size of the bus market is just how many buses are in operation per year, or I guess it was a little bit, but overall 4,000. I think had you stopped at like 400,000, I think that would have been just about right. But yeah, pretty much. I think it would be good to look over this again. Um, and looking at it now, what does buses per year mean? Is that buses in operation, or buses being definitely not buses being purchased, or but yeah, I think this would be number of buses in operation. But anyways, yeah, regardless, I think it'd be definitely worth reviewing this market sizing question. Um, because ultimately 4,000 replacing 4,000 buses per year, um, I I think yeah, I think I think ultimately you had
I will
stopped
go
at
over the math again. I think there's something big mistake must happen here, but I still couldn't tell why. Because because it's 25 million and the 3 million.
Mhm.
That is um so it's 3 million. That is, yeah, something 2 million and 2 million. Yeah, 50. Yeah, I don't know why it's multiple the number of school days.
Yeah.
Why, I mean,
Yeah, that is strange. Because yeah,
yeah,
had you divide this by 200, it would have been about 3,000, right? So, or 3,000, yeah. So I guess that is kind of strange. 'Cause
yeah, I
okay,
think I think yeah, I mean you're right. I mean my final data is 4,000 bus.
mhm.
I think the thing that I'm missing is the number of school days per year is I didn't multiple the 200.
That's
If I
yeah,
multiple the 200, that is
you'd be right there.
800,000.
Mhm,
So that is the factor that I'm missing is 200, but I don't know why I need to multiple the 200.
mhm.
Is there
Yeah.
any reason that we should multiple that? That's ridiculous,
Um,
right? You operate a bus every day, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I guess it would be, I don't know, because this is an annual figure, that they would
But
I see
still,
what
I
you
mean,
mean.
it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And actually, I don't think 600,000 is the right. I
Yeah,
don't think
that's true.
600,000 because I mean, suppose
Mhm.
that you think I mean, there's not much school bus you see every day, right? It's every town maybe have 10, 12,
Yeah.
20, 30 bus. I mean, that's not a large number. Suppose how many towns you have in a country. You know, Australia is pretty small country. Only the
Yeah.
population is around coast. So I think
Yeah,
600,000
I would agree
is
actually. Yeah, they don't need a new bus for every day of the year. You know? So I agree. This is a strange 200 figure. Because yeah, you don't
yeah,
need
I
to
think
buy a
they
new bus for every day of the school day, every day of the school year. So yeah. Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
I
I
think
think in that
they
case,
did it wrong.
yeah,
Yeah.
we can move forward. Yeah. Okay, yeah, good point. I hadn't really looked at that so much. So yeah, that
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. So all
But
right.
that is calculation isn't much relevant to the next
Yeah,
part.
exactly, exactly. Okay, so let's moving forward. We'll turn attention to market growth. If yeah, so we had mentioned 5% growth in the past 3 years as opposed to 2% growth. And so yeah, you had great ideas. I think it was the younger population maybe increasing. Maybe some parents have been, they've been getting busy. And then also that you mentioned some regulation policy changes. So that was great. 3 years ago they actually did that. They would replace their old buses with new buses. You had mentioned something about product in which like they need more like energy efficient buses or more comfortable or more safe buses. What else did you mention? Do you remember what you mentioned besides right, regulate
Yeah,
larger,
I mentioned population regulation
right?
and
What was that?
their
Yeah,
the
expanding
decision
into
maker behavior. So they may want a
yeah,
modern one. They live distantly. Their parents are busy. So
or they move to suburbs and they need more yeah, and then parents are busy. Yeah. So I think you did great on this brainstorm. Yeah, under growth, normal growth rate. Why? Yeah, yeah. Perhaps okay, yeah, consider um there could have been more considerations about growing in the future. But yeah, overall, yeah, I think you had a good answers to this question. So moving forward, right. So exhibit one, it's great that you actually took away the right market share and selling at higher prices. So that's just great. Um I think time and time again, though, we came back to in the rest of the case, you had mentioned that the quantity of buses sold were like higher than competitors when it actually would be the opposite takeaway, in that our quantity sold is lower than that of our competitors, but our prices are higher due to our market share and revenue. And so that was something that came back to that I was like, oh
yeah, you're right. You're
yeah,
right. Market share not that
yeah.
strong.
Yeah, so just a brief a lapse and like a takeaway from the exhibit. And so and then from there, you had mentioned from there. So going forward, I was like, okay, why might Starbucks be charging a higher price? And you had mentioned stuff like I think branding, supply and I think supply and demand, kind of upgrades. But
Yes.
with this being a manufacturing case, and he said, I think he said something about services or something, like,
Mhm.
and so, but this with this being a manufacturing case, a large consideration is cost of goods sold. Like perhaps if this was gosh, I like an insurance company, yeah, and services and roadside assistance and all that stuff may drive for a higher price structure for a more premium like insurance kind of business. But with this being a manufacturing case, a huge consideration is like cost of goods sold and supply chain and transportation. And so just the brainstorm ideas you had come up with, I thought that were not like entirely um great regards to. And then yeah, we drove towards the cost and margin analysis, and we dove into this. And again, you had the right takeaways that the gross margin is lower and operating efficiency is the same. But when we were diving into the cost structure, it just took, it just like what I meant to say, like for a lot of these a lot of like the brainstorm ideas you had, they were all good quality brainstorms for just like every single case, like branding and all this stuff. But in regards to this particular bus manufacturer acquisition target, like what we would find is, cost of goods sold as manufacturing is really high. And then going into, some of the variable costs that I would prompt you into brainstorming. There's a lot of direct material costs and supplier costs and quality parts per car and storage costs and labor costs, suppliers and all this stuff. And so what they would ultimately come to is that because, and I would throw by too. So what could cause the higher material costs? I think you had mentioned consolidating suppliers together and switching supplier. But the whole takeaway after kind of prodding is that this stuff is really hard to negotiate and fix in a short period of time. In regards to a private equity like flipping businesses, like finding new suppliers for bus parts, like finding new engines or new, a bus kind of like seats or a frame for like a bus, like the frame that puts everything and those are actually quite difficult to source, because there aren't that many buses that are replaced every year. And so like the conclusion they made is that because the cost structure is largely the biggest driver of whether this why Starbus may be performing in certain metrics worse than its competitors Melbourne Bus and Sydney Bus, they would ultimately recommend that it would not be a good investment because this is something that was maybe asked, but the higher cost of direct materials from competitors, and this would be unlikely to negotiate or switch to a new supplier within a short time frame, just because the nature of a bus manufacturer, a lot of this stuff is actually really hard to change supply chain. And so what they would ultimately recommend is maybe switch the target to the other buses because their cost structures are more efficient. And and then again, you mentioned synergies with the portfolio companies, I think, and so that was good. But the ultimate takeaway had been that because this cost structure of this pretty like niche kind of acquisition target of bus manufacturing is really difficult to address. And so this would be in this case's opinion, it would not be a good acquisition target. And so that's pretty much what goes to my takeaway of this being a really high brainstorming case, is that these brainstorms, a lot of your brainstorming ideas could be applied to like just about every case. But with this being a specialty kind of manufacturing case of school bus manufacturing, a lot of your ideas was they were hoping I was hoping that your ideas would be a lot more customized to the nature of this case. Like for example, if this was like a like manufacturing like toys, for example, like maybe the molds for toys is quite easily to, just keep the same molds for toys. And so you just source different plastics, or you source different, kind of like, hairs or whatever, or like whatever you put on these stuffed animals. Or if this was like a, like a burger chain, you can freeze the patties. And so you could, get different, different sources of your meats, because you can just freeze the patties and transport them over different areas. But for Busmate, you had mentioned location as well. And so the stuff you were mentioning about like location of the manufacturing plants, they hadn't mentioned that here. But yeah, like transporting bus, like these the parts to make a bus are really big and bulky. They need to be stored somewhere. And they're quite complex in their engine structures, and like the stairs, and like maybe some of the mechanics for like how the bus operates. There's not a lot of, like, I would imagine for manufacturing buses, like they don't make, you know what I mean? Like maybe if you're manufacturing like a million Toyotas, like you can drive down the costs of, because you're ordering so many like engines or spark plugs or whatever. But with, like with the literal mechanics of how the school bus operates, of like the and like opening the doors and stuff like that, there isn't like a high demand for those particular kind of mechanisms. And so just thinking about this in like a manufacturing supply chain, their conclusion again would be that this, improving the cost structure for this like kind of niche kind of product is really would be quite difficult to address. And ultimately, they would recommend, not taking this acquisition, not taking this investment, even switching to the other targets instead. And so yeah, I think we had done a case a while. We had done, actually, yeah, we had done a similar like school bus case, like, I think a little while ago, and they also made the same conclusion that like it would not be, so not that it has anything to do with, school buses in particular, but like, they're like saying that it's not a good investment is also an option. You know what I mean? Like saying no, this is not a good investment. The answer doesn't necessarily have to be yes. And so it could be equally, yes or no. And so I think I was trying to get you toward it. It was like, oh, do you think this can be solved easily? Like, switching suppliers is I didn't say this, but like it's highly consolidated, like the higher direct material costs. And so I was trying to, I asked you a number of times, like, do you think this can be solved easily? Do you think this can be solved quickly? And instead of like kind of pivoting and like, kind of taking where I was going with it, you had kind of really committed to this. Yes, it's a good investment. Yes, it's a good investment. I was trying to drive you towards like maybe it's not, and but yeah, so this is a really heavy brainstorm case. And so like I definitely think that this definitely brought out like a lot of gaps in like considerations. But overall, looking back on it now, I think you did well enough. But just like, again, it just comes back to the brainstorm we did last time with the wine agriculture case. Yeah, it's just just a similar kind of um limitations, or however you would take it. So yeah, that's what I would say.
No, actually, after reviewing the whole case, I still hold different idea. I still think this is a good acquisition, to consider, because especially in an industry that is not changing quickly, that is very
Mm,
established, operating in kind of a stable way. When you see there is 10% less gross margin compared to a competitor, usually that is a problem can be quickly fixed,
mm,
because this is a stable industry. You don't need to explore a lot. You just need to look at what your competitor is doing. Is it because
mm,
of your operation? Is it because of your material? So, even though the supplier is, so I mean, still now, I mean, based on this
Yeah, you
case,
make a good point. Yeah.
we don't know why, right? We still don't know what is the root cause of the gross margin. Probably because of the internal operation part. If that is the problem, that could be
Mm,
easily fixed. And if because the Starbucks operates in multiple factory, they manufacture things in multiple factory.
mm,
I mean, those are things that could be easily fixed. So, for example, you could start a new transition center in the middle of close to
mm,
every factory and make that delivery more efficient. If there is a problem, there is a way to fix. But however, so I strongly disagree. They say, oh, maybe maybe a Starbucks is not a good option. Maybe you should consider a Modbus and Starbucks. I don't agree that, because in PE industry, there is a strategy. It's called you buy it, turn it around. That is why I repeatedly mentioned. So first, you need to look at your target. The second, you need to look at your own target, your own goal. So what I mean, after you acquire, you don't run the company forever. What's next? Are you trying to sell it within 3 years, or are you trying to buy it and hold it as part of your
You did mention
portfolio
that, yeah.
for long term? What's your plan? You know, they operate the private equity, they operate money on behalf of someone else. It's not like this. This is not your own money. You need to manage the money on behalf of someone else. So there must be a target of your own portfolio. So what thing you want to achieve? You cannot just buy whatever company you want. So there's a specific kind of strategy. That is, you buy it, you turn it around, you fix the problem. Because you buy the target, you see, oh, there is a quite obvious pitfall, quite obvious things, and you can fix it easily. And because why you can fix it easily, because you have the experience in managing the similar industry target. You have the experience in fixing such problems. For example, if they sell good product, good service, they just don't know how to do the marketing. And it's something you can bring on the table, and you can turn that around easily. You can catch up. So catch up is always way much easier than innovate, then you try something new. So
Yeah.
it's gross margin. There are 10% shortage. So if you are 10% lower than the industry benchmark, which means usually we as a if we our clients are PE, we have a stronger pricing power. And we can, because when you do your pricing, so how PE company make money? So they evaluate they value a target company. So for example, it's like 10 million, but how they get the valuation? So usually it's called the NP. There are several. There are all kinds of model to do the valuation, like NPV. You discount the bottom line and to the present value, get the present value. That's one way. The other way is you can compare to some recent similar transaction, and that get a multipliers. But all kinds of transaction, they're all based on the bottom line. So how much profit you earn every years. So the lower bottom line, the profit you have, so usually that means you have the lower valuation. So if you can turn that around easily, which means you can, and then you sell it, you don't hold, you don't buy and hold, you don't hoard it, you sell it finally. Just depend on when and how, what is the best position to exit. You always need to exit an investment. So I think, I mean, look at the math it did. It's multiple $200, and the breakdown into the cost structure. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's he could do that in one way, but I don't think that's a super a great way to admire. It's just a one way to approach. So this is definitely from a student wrap up this case. So I don't think there are too many industry insight in there. So I strongly disagree. So they could say, yeah, the bus industry is not attractive. If the bus industry is not attractive, we don't touch it. But if the bus industry is attractive, I think the Starbucks is very likely way much better than the Mall and Sydney, because it has a 10% cost one, and it's even though it charge higher. I mean, we need to appreciate it charge a higher price, but it has a little bit more market share. There's something there must be something reason behind that, because their factory maybe is close to its customers, so the delivery fee is lower. So there must be some reason so why it's selling expensive, but it doesn't sell less.
Mhm.
So I don't see there's any specific, at least for now, all the information I got in this case, I don't see any red flag that we cannot catch up. It
Mm.
just depends on how to catch up.
Mm. Yeah, no, as I'm listening to you, yeah, it makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I guess there's some pretty glaring issues with this case and the what they brought up. Even more so that if the products are pretty consolidated, they're very similar, then yeah, changing suppliers and all that stuff would actually be quite similar. Just get what the competitors are, how they source their products. And
Yeah,
yeah, no, I agree.
they say the problem is relationship problem. Then fire your relationship manager. Find a good relationship manager. Manage the relationship. I mean,
Yeah.
do the work. I mean, why you cannot catch up the industry benchmark? It's
Mm.
hard to get better than the benchmark, but easily. I think you should be at the benchmark. If you're
Mm.
not at the benchmark, you will go out of business.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, and listening to you, I guess like my experience with private equity is very like almost nil. I know how it works like in a very broad sense. And so, but yeah, hearing you say it now, yeah, there's some pretty glaring issues with this case. And so when I send you feedback, step away from I'll step away from just because you end up giving like strong reasonings for your ideas. And so, definitely, you're totally allowed to like disagree with the case and stuff like that. And so I'll just give more feedback, not on, there's no
But I
like,
think, yeah, but I think your feedback is on like my brainstorm is not very tailored. That is very the thing that I appreciate a lot.
Mhm.
So and you mentioned I didn't clarify the question. So what kind of the target that we're calculating the buses per year? So I didn't clarify at the beginning. I started to jump into the calculation right away. So that same mistake. Uh, and what else? And yeah, so why higher prices? I mean, so I think the thing that I mentioned, those are valuable perspective to consider. But also as a manufacturer, I should definitely consider what if it have a higher cost. So that is thing that I didn't come into my mind at all in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are great lesson learned. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's a great case, great practice.
Yeah.
And now,
No.
you know what? Now I feel I'm more comfortable with manufacturing, really.
Mhm.
So before
Yeah.
that, I just feel like freeze.
Totally lost. Yeah. Yeah, because you can see now, yeah, like how a lot of the cost structure is like associated with the manufacturing case. And so yeah, definitely I think as we're doing a couple more of these, you are getting a much better idea of, what a manufacturing industry or business, how they operate. And so yeah, it's just as I'm following along with this, I guess I kind of took this case at face value. And like yeah, it doesn't make sense why they multiplied by school days per year. And
Which means
also
they need
like
a bus every day, different
yeah,
bus
you
every
need a
day.
new bus every day. Yeah, and as well, like with this being a cost issue problem, with the buses being with like literally the buses being interchangeable with minimal differences. You're right. I don't see why the reevaluating the cost structure would be so difficult. And so yeah, but and as well, like really emphasizing what our client's portfolio company would be if they've been working with a completely different industry this whole time, then but yeah, so I definitely think yeah, you make a lot of good points.
Yeah,
So
actually, I learned about their practice is from a friend who is doing he's working. They don't call themselves a PE company, but they kind of doing the same thing like some PE do. They're very knowledgeable about food industry, so
mm,
restaurant industry. So what they do is they targeting I mean they targeting struggling brand
mhm,
and they buy a lot of share of the company, and then
mm,
they go in and then turn around because some restaurant problem are sometimes common, so they don't know how to manage their inventory efficiently. So it's I mean that those problems are easily to solve. You just use some very established, very mature software, and you hire a new relationship manager, and they consolidate the different brand. I mean, they operate in different location, but they could manage all kinds of inventory, the food ingredient, the alcohol. They purchase them together. They have higher pricing power, and they know where to sourcing the good food ingredient, and they're sourcing them all together and cut the cost like 20%, or maybe not 20%, but 10%, 15%, which means the value will improve, improve 1.5, get 1.5 higher than when they purchase after 3 to 6 months, and then they sell it, you know, they
They
sell
sell
it.
it first.
Yeah, they purchase one, they help them to manage a little bit, they adjust the internal structure, and they do some twist. And even though a brand is struggling, that doesn't mean, I mean, their concept could be good, it could have a great
Execution.
customer relationship, and their operation is good, which means they don't need to looking for locations and to do all the interior design. They don't need to invent all kinds of concepts. Those concepts are already market proofs. All they need to improve is how they operate. How is they're not good
Yeah.
at marketing, or they're
Yeah.
not good at the back operations. So those are things are easy to fix. And then after, like, they can turn that around within 6 months. That's really quick. It's kind of shock to me. That's wow. And then after they run it one in quick way, maybe 1 years, in longer way, maybe 2 to 5 years, they turn that into a good shape. And from 10 branch to 20 branch, and from 50 branch to 100 branch, and then they sell it to a larger investors. So that's how they make money. They repeat that again, again.
Wow, I think going back in time, I think majoring in finance or studying finance would have been really cool. I mean, but hindsight's 2020. But yeah, there's still I'm very glad
I mean,
that.
yeah, yes and no. It's for me it's study finance. It definitely offer me a perspective to see the world. But on the other hand, I kind of lost the root with the industry. I don't know how the
Yeah.
industry run. I don't have industry contacts when they talk something. You know, it's finance. It's a service business. You service industry, and meanwhile, you don't know what your customers doing. That's kind of a gap between majoring finance and doing business.
Yeah. And I mean, even they'll say, like, the CEO of Uber, like he actually, would get in his car and drive Uber for a little while to see what it's like to be an Uber driver. You know what I mean? It's like it's
Yeah,
easy to
yeah,
make
yeah,
all
yeah,
the
yeah.
all the spreadsheets and like due diligence and everything, but like how what's the experience of being an Uber driver? What's the
Yeah,
experience
yeah, yeah.
working at a McDonald's, or working, or manufacturing line at a Toyota facility. Like that's
Yeah,
not
you're
something.
absolutely right.
Yeah,
You
that's
know
not
what?
something.
Even though you spend some time you working in McDonald's, that experience also adds a lot of value. So when you study finance, business, you think problems in a highly abstract way. I mean,
Exactly.
not in a good way, but so abstract, away from the reality. So you live in your own bubble,
Mhm.
and you cannot see the whole picture.
Yeah, it was so funny actually. So I through a strange like LinkedIn connection from a guy I knew from elementary school. He reached out to me because he had a friend that worked at a private equity firm looking at lab management software. So like when for me, biotech company, when you do all these experiments, you need a way. You can't just use Excel spreadsheets. A lot of these experiments and operations that run at a biotech company are very complex. And so he through we actually got on a phone call, and he asked me like, hey, I work at a private equity firm, and we're looking at acquiring or purchasing a business that works in lab management software, like to run labs. And I wanted to ask you, Stephen, like having worked at a biotech company, what's your experience with working on
Did
the
they pay
floor?
you for that?
No, I know they didn't. It was just like a
You
friend
should.
favor.
I mean, they should. I mean, yeah, they could. I mean, it's a. I mean,
I
those
should
are
be,
the information valuable for them.
yeah,
You know, they
maybe I should have
shouldn't.
asked, like, because yeah, I was that's a good point. I just kind of like, oh, I'll do a favor for a friend, but like, man, like you're right.
It is but if he is a friend, then that is
Yeah,
okay. But
yeah, yeah.
but if he is some guy out of nowhere, then
Yeah. No, no, I knew him. I knew him, and they were yeah. So it's basically like, yeah, it's basically like someone you'd meet at like a party. You know what I mean? Like if I was hanging out with someone,
oh, I see.
you know what I mean?
You see, the guys don't know the industry at all. They
Yeah, he
don't
doesn't know at
know.
all. Yeah,
They just
yeah,
don't
no,
know.
yeah.
So I mean, so yeah,
Every perspective is important because like seeing businesses in a finance perspective, like actually like knowing like what because like venture capital and private equity is actually really cool. But I didn't realize like only until after I started working with you and like talking about like how like things are actually made did I realize that like my experience as an engineer is actually quite valuable in like this kind of sense, you know. I give myself a hard time because I'm like, oh, I should have done computers, but like computer science or whatever. But I do have a very like strong idea of how like everything at a gas station, how it's made, like all pharmaceutical products, all oil and gas products, food and beverage products, consumer packaged goods. I have a strong everything that you would find in a, I just yeah, I never gave myself credit for like what chemical engineering has taught me to actually see the world in. I always kind of just thought like, man, if only I studied something else, but like I never realized just how good of a perspective I just have such a narrow mindset sometimes, you know what I mean? But like, I kind of forget like how, what I actually really offer. Like this is at this point, this is beyond like case practice or whatever. But like, I give myself way too little credit sometimes. I like as like it's just strange, like some like self-esteem stuff where I sometimes like genuinely think that I'm not intelligent. I genuinely think that, and it's just like, but looking at myself for what I really am and what I really know, it's like it's kind of ridiculous to suggest that to myself. But yeah, anyways, yeah, I just yeah, only really until I started talking to you about because in college it's great, because you meet all these smart people, you're around them all, you can come up with all these conversations all the time. But like after getting out of college and then the pandemic and then working this like job I wasn't happy with, like I just my viewpoint of the world just narrowed in so much so that like I barely could even like see the world for at all. I could barely like leave the house. I was so like, isolated. But actually only really talking to you for a little while now, did I realize that like, I actually, anyways, I'm talking in circles at this point, but I hope you see what I mean. Like I
yeah,
never realized what, kind of perspective an asset my perspectives are. So
definitely. So when the last time, or maybe the time before last time, so you mentioned, oh, maybe I should think about getting a job, but getting back to the bio industry. I have so many contact there. Inside me, I say, oh, envy you.
That's so funny. Oh my God, that's so funny because in my head, I'm like, oh, I have to go back doing that again. You know what I mean? But really, I'm so lucky.
Yeah, envy you. Wow, you know someone from the industry. Oh, that's
Uh,
so cool. The finance people, we kind of like, we don't have roots. We don't have roots in any real industry.
hmm,
And it's hard for us to find real connection. It's really hard for us because we I mean, by talking to those people, you need at least 3 to 5 years to learn in the industry.
hmm,
We don't have the time. We spend 4 years to learn, and another 4 years to study like economy, finance. And what if you don't be an economist? Economist is not, at the beginning when I was at a college, I thought I might could become an economist someday. So that's, I have very narrow worldview. I don't know what is business.
like an
I don't know what
academic.
is
Yeah.
finance. I study a lot of economy. So economy is just a structure to explain way. explain how the world is running in this way. It's just a one way to explain it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
economists is not there are not many job opportunities there. The whole BOA, the Bank of America, the large bank, there's only one economist, there's only one economist. There's only one chief economist, and the economists run a very small office. So like maybe 2 to 3% to help them. It's not too many job opportunities over there. So, and after I graduated, I studied some finance. So finance, you need to provide service to a certain industry. But what if you don't know a single industry? I don't even know where to start with. My husband is they study electronic engineering. He trained himself 4 years in college and 5 years PhD, and that is almost 10 years to learn a certain language. And how may I supposed to dialogue with
Yeah,
I can't.
you come in as a consultant and it's like I have no idea how you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can. I just cannot. So yeah, your industry background is so valued. And so yeah, there's
I had
no
no idea. Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah, and so I think I really ought to get back into it. I wanted to let you know actually as well. Last week I talked to you about that job opportunity. It didn't work out in a very yeah, it's not something I really want to talk about. It was just, not because it didn't work out in a very embarrassing way. It was just like yeah, and so like, that all I'm saying is that didn't work out. And so that actually was like a thing of humility for me. And I think right now, even if I just go back into work as like a technician, you know what I mean? Not even as an engineer, but like someone that just like pipette stuff or just like, turns on machines. You know what I mean? Like someone,
yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like I think that would just be a good
There's
start.
still a lot to learn. You get to learn what is
Yeah.
the industry norm, and those will become your asset when you start your consulting career.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, especially if I do lean into my experience in life sciences so yeah, that's really important. I give myself way too little credit. So yeah, because I always look at like, oh my gosh, banking is so cool. Oh my gosh, software is so cool. Even freaking insurance is so cool. I mean, like, oil and gas is so
Not cool
cool.
at
But
all.
then
Not cool
but
at
then
all.
yeah, but then I look at my experience of like pharmaceutical engineering and chemical engineering and biomedical engineering. I'm like, oh, this is so boring. You know what I mean? Like, I have to get out of this, But like really, I never realized like, this will be some like a lot of people's like dream kind of like, like industry to break into.
Yeah, especially
I
you're
just take it
sort
for
of
granted.
familiar with life science industry. Those are becoming a booming industry for sure in the next decades.
Yeah.
Rather than considering finance, that's a shrinking business. That
Really?
is shrinking. Because finance make money when you communicate information really difficult. So there are bankers, financial services people, they communicate on behalf of you. Then what if you can communicate on behalf of yourself? You
Like
don't need that
automated,
people.
automated
You can
AI. Yeah.
make investment decision on your phone, on your app, and
Mhm.
they already tell you how to become an informed and wise investor, individual investor. Then you don't need wealth management
Yeah.
advisor.
You don't need some guy on Wall Street to like tell you, like,
Yeah,
yeah.
so finance industry, it's not they way over past their glory time. So after 2008, it's getting like going down the slope. It's nothing much new is going on, and it's heavy regulated. It's it's more like an admin. You do a lot of administration a job in finance industry. Admin people, they don't generate value. They don't generate new. There's nothing new there. They just it's kind of a something. It's not like it's. I mean, for example, for the revenue or opportunity generating industry, like it's just like you go on street, you're shopping a new clothes, a new pair of shoes that benefit you. And for example, like financing is like you go back, you start to put down. So how much money I spend on the shoes, how much money I spend on the clothes, and
Mhm.
you put the shoes and back to the closet, all the kinds of boring work.
Mhm.
You know, when you log your every item you spend become easily, and you can do that use your app. You
Mhm.
can, when you go back to your home, your robot can fold your clothes and put that in your closet. You don't need that anymore,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. So but compared to the life science industry, you know, with the generative AI, there definitely will becoming more tailored, more individualized therapy, individualized treatment, individualized personal care. So those are the booming opportunities out there. So I'm so excited to see how, I mean, the whole way that we manage our health through improve our wellness will improve, because you know there are a huge problem here in the United States.
Mhm.
The huge pharmaceutical, the large hospital, they earn money when people getting sick.
Mhm.
So that is not a healthy way to make money. So what if they can make money by
Proving lives. Yeah.
by improve people's wellness.
Mhm. I mean, I'm sure you maybe you not, but you've heard of that medication from Denmark that makes people lose weight. Yeah, have you heard of this? Like,
Yeah.
there's like a really huge. I think it's O something. It starts with an O, but yeah, they have a drug now that came out of Denmark or something that literally helps people lose weight. It works. I mean, I remember I can go on. The details aren't really relevant, but now it's like a third of the GDP of Denmark or something or whatever of like just because this one like weight loss drug is selling so damn well.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm curious about what it's called. I can send you this.
Wow, that's
But like
crazy.
so is I think this goes without saying, but is this why you're looking to go specifically into environmental sustainability? Because pure finance is not it is.
Definitely. So let's I have to find some way to get to, you know, to cut into the world. So,
Mhm.
and based on I don't know much about engineer, bio, I don't know much about the hard part, so I have to start with something soft.
Yeah. It's just so funny because like I oh yeah, by the way, this is the drug I was talking to you about. So this was June 2023. It's called Ozemic Craze.
Oh,
Ozemic Craze.
I didn't know this is a Denmark company. I know
I'm actually
know
not sure.
I know this pill, but it's not for everyone, because I want to buy it. You know,
Yeah.
that is so. But this is for diabetes too.
Yeah, for
So,
diabetes. I'm actually curious about.
but only you reach certain amount of weight, really heavy. They will prescribe such medicine for you. Otherwise, you can only buy that in black market. I think it's not there's no legit
Drug
way.
dealers.
If I, for example, if I am in a health weight healthy BMI index, so my my home doctor will not get this medicine for me. It's only
Yeah.
for someone who's in bad shape, in really bad shape.
Yeah. And but that's what I'm saying is that what we're just talking about improving wellness. Like you don't need to like go to a doctor, but this is just, what I mean? This is just now it's
Yeah.
medical technology just improve lives. Like so that's so interesting. Gosh, I take that's what I was saying. I take my education and my background so for granted. I like it's just I was thinking the other day as like I'm trying to like note down like patterns of thinking and everything. Like it's just so I genuinely think I'm not smart sometimes. Like or I my perspective is like not valuable. And it's just so I don't know, it's just so silly. And talking to you about it's just like it's just so strange. It's so strange, like hearing in a good way of like hearing like from a person in finance perspective, Like, and that's just the thing that getting a good bite of swallowing a pill of humility is good, because like I can, of course no job is easy to get, and and nothing is I'm not entitled to anything or taken for granted, but I have so many connections in the biotechnology industry in the Silicon Valley or Bay Area, that getting at least just like a bare like technician job of like, pipetting stuff is would be relatively straightforward. And here I am, having not worked for about 8 months, no, 10 months now. I haven't worked. And it really I've only just, in the past week or so, after doing a lot of reflection, for the past couple of months, like I'm like some very serious reflections, that like I really need to swallow my pride a little bit. I'm not gonna get like McKinsey or like Deloitte or strategy, and I'm not gonna get that in a month. Like anyways, that's something I've really actually wrote down very recently. I need to swallow my pride a little bit and just get a technician job at a biotech company, like, and because I get so, and I'm like, oh, I have a chemical engineering degree, and this, and so I just swing back and forth between like I'm too good for this and I'm too bad for this, and I just swallowing some humility, getting some humility is really important. So yeah,
I have to go in a
yeah,
minute,
me
but
too.
before I jump offline, I would like to share is so you mentioned you sometimes you think you're not intelligent, but I mean what I learned is from my experience is almost all the people, their intelligence level, their capability to do the reasonable, rational thinking, the
Yeah.
cognitive capability, their potential are around the same.
Hmm.
They don't different. I mean, of course, there are talent, super talent people. There are a massive, but that's so rare. That's irrelevant to us.
Hmm.
I mean, they're not the one that we're competing with.
Hmm.
We're competing with average person like us.
Hmm.
When you say, "Oh, this guy is smart," they're smart, maybe just a little bit. Just think
Yeah.
about uh Albert Einstein. They're at there.
Yeah. It's
So
outlier.
so they're smarter. It's irrelevant. It's so such a trivial things. But what's more important is you need to know what you want. You need to feel and to learn what you're good at, what you really enjoy, and your consistency. Are you in a physical good shape? Are you capable of leverage your thinking capability? Can you, I mean, can you function yourself well?
Mhm.
So those are the things more relevant when it comes down to earth, the day-to-day job, their day daily activities.
Yeah, I want to let you go because of time and all that stuff, but that's also something that I've been learning as well, is that like by and large most technical problems can be solved. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Most problems can, like the big issue a lot of times is getting everyone to pull in the same direction, getting like patients to agree to take their medications, getting like clients, the lawyer, like getting teams and businesses to cooperate, and for clients, and like a lot more of it is interpersonal and communication and soft skills than it is just roots like solving a technical, because like by and large technical problems can be like solved, but it's just there's a professor at Carnegie Mellon that's like the international math. Anyways, he's been traveling the country like talking about AI and what it means, like, and so what he's basically been saying is that because of AI and all this, like technical problems, like pure roots like engineering and mathematical computation, and like is 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 going to be, is going to take out a lot of technical jobs, like like you said, root like Excel monkeys, crunching out. But like nobody wants to take advice from an AI chatbot. They want a person. They want a person that they can eat lunch with, and eat dinner with, and go bowling with, and taking on gold. If you're a really rich, investor or whatever, like they want to go with someone to go to play golf with, or go to a country club with, and drink some wine together, or also they don't want to just talk to an AI chatbot to give them like what they should invest, next acquisition target. I'm sure, like, when the AI gets, really, really advanced in like 10 years, maybe it can make such complicated decisions, but like they no one wants to just talk to an AI chatbot. They like going to restaurants. They like they like going bowling. They like going to playing golf with other people. And that's not something AI can replace. Like genuinely, like what makes us human, which is like enjoying time together and connecting with other people. Like even like some of the biggest like AI products out there is like chatbots with like virtual people, because like they don't have any friends, they don't have anyone to talk to in real life, so they just have like an AI friend that they just especially older generation, like very elderly people, a lot of them just talk to the AI chatbot because no one wants to listen to their stories. 8 years old. It's really, yeah, it's really quite sad, I mean, because they don't have anyone to talk to. But anyways, so like that's something I learned a lot about from this guy. It's just that yeah, AI might be able to solve almost all of our technical problems, but like fundamentally what makes us human, like soft skills and spending time together, and like that could be soft skills, that translate to business relationships and getting people to work together and innovation, like and getting people to pull in the same direction, project managers getting herding cats, to get everyone and their deliverables put in time. That's not something AI chatbots can do. It's like genuinely just human beings working with other human beings. That'll always be, because no one wants to just talk to an AI chatbot all day. If they had a choice, they want to talk to a human being. They want to connect with human beings and work with human beings. They don't want to just talk to an AI chatbot all day. And so investing in like, anyways, so I think I'm like talking in circles again, but that's all I'm saying is that like, yeah, I completely agree with you. Like there's like everyone intelligence wise, there are again like these huge outliers, but even then those huge outliers and that kind of that exponential kind of graph of people and their root intelligence skills, that will just be like weighted of what the weight of this, where you land on this graph. That weight will be diminished as AI gets better and better, because in your whole consideration as an applicant, that slice of the pie will get smaller and smaller, just because AI is going to get better and better and will phase out like the need of those kind of like roots. Because you can ask ChatGPT to give you directions to like code entire like sorting algorithms or whatever. Like just knowing, you see what I mean? And I think you see what I mean at this point. The soft skills and actually being a human being kind of like value add is going to be just that slice of the pie is just going to increase, because the technical will decrease just because of the technology increases. So investing in soft skills and it is so much more of an important investment now more than ever. And then of course, again, like you said, is studying how the world works and just bringing that perspective. AI is just truly one perspective. They just conglomerated all of the internet and all data into one like chat box, but like bringing in new perspectives. And I think you see what I think you see what I mean. Learning about people is interesting. People read biographies for a reason. They follow Elon Musk and they follow Mark Zuckerberg and Donald Trump. They follow them because they're people are interesting. They like interesting people. AI chat boxes, they're just like, it's just it literally is a robot, but it's interesting to love him or hate him, love him or hate him, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is like one of the greatest salesmen. I've been watching documentaries about him from 2016 and 2020, like documentary. He is fascinating. He is absolutely fat. And like, I don't agree with a lot of his policies, obviously. I don't think anyone really, but he is an incredible salesman, and he's incredible at getting so many people on the same page. I mean, obviously he ran for president. The guy was a total, moonshot of a candidate, but because just purely, of who he was, he's technically like kind of a dummy. I mean, like I don't know what his grades in college were, but like as a soft skill person, as like a leader, as a herding cats, and he's an absolute genius. As a salesman, he's an absolute genius. And so those soft skills will be more important as a slice of a pie for a professional as AI gets bigger and bigger. But so just anyways, so that's what I was just thinking about. And so yeah, so we so you're investing. Yeah, anyways, I'm just talking in circles, but yeah, so I want to let you go because we're out of time. But yeah,
I think another great talk. So see you next week.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And just we'll keep in touch. So yeah.
Definitely.
All right. Okay,
Okay.
we'll see you, Ellen. Thank you again. Thank you. It really is so cool to hear your perspective. It really is so cool. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye,
See
Steve.
you, Ellen.